Hello to the 4 people watching this. I'm DJ and welcome to my channel. So like I said before, I'm DJ and this is my first video on this channel. I decided to make my first video about my story with chronic illnesses, the major one being Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So what is EDS? Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a collection of connective tissue disorders, which can be caused by a gene mutation or be inherited. There are 13 subtypes of EDS, but to keep it as simple as possible, I'm going to be talking about the one that I was diagnosed with, which is EDS type 3, or hypermobile EDS. As you can probably tell by the name, HEDS focuses more on the hypermobility side of EDS. This means that people with HEDS have stretchy skin and joints that easily sublux or dislocate. Besides that, HEDS can cause some other things. This includes chronic pain and chronic fatigue, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, GI problems like gastroparesis, chronic headaches, spine issues, mast cell activation disorder, temporomandibular joint dysfunction, and a whole bunch of other things. My EDS story starts back in 2009 when I was 7 years old. That July, I visited the emergency room for the first time because I sprained my ankle. That sprained ankle seemed to be a trigger point because after that, I seemed to go to the emergency room over 10 times every year just for sprains and dislocations and fractures. When I was 10, I ended up having both of my wrists x-rayed because I had terrible pain in them, and I had to see a specialist at the Children's Hospital to help me manage it. One school year, I actually sprained and fractured my ankles 3 times back to back. So I would show up to school with a brace on my leg, have it off 1 week, and then the next week I would come back on crutches. This was hard for me because the more I came to school with braces on, the more people began to think that I was over-exaggerating my pain. In February of 2014, I went to the emergency room because I had the worst stomach pain I've had in my entire life, and I thought it was appendicitis. I started seeing a permanent doctor at the Children's Hospital. In 2015 was the first time I was ever admitted to a hospital. I contracted the norovirus, and I ended up losing a lot of fluids. I won't go into detail how. It's kind of gross. Ill. And I stayed there for 3 days. While there, I ended up having a bunch of tests scheduled. And in March of that year, I had my first ever endoscopy. Fun fact, it was on St. Patrick's Day. Nothing was found in my endoscopy. So I was still treated for gastritis. And I kept getting casts on my arms and fracturing my ankles and dislocating my knees and my shoulders. In December of 2015, I had another endoscopy, but there were no results again. In January of 2016, I saw a cardiologist for the first time. That day, I was diagnosed with POTS after having a tilt test performed on me. It's not fun. That cardiologist and another cardiologist at the Children's Hospital suggested that maybe there was something bigger that was causing my POTS and my GI issues. And they were right. I was referred to genetics, and after being on a waiting list for 8 months, I saw them and was diagnosed with HEDS. All throughout this time, I was also getting tested for my GI issues and had an informal diagnosis of gastroparesis. This year, I was also diagnosed with TMJ and scoliosis. I don't know what the future has in store for me, but this is my EDS story up to now. Well, there you go, guys. That was my EDS story. Thank you so much for watching, if anyone is watching. And do the generic YouTube thing, like subscribe and like if you want to see more videos. Well, bye for now.